DFS show with Johnny Mpemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? Johnny Mpemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook live show. We are here on a Tuesday, just 4 games on today's main slate, so we're going to have a little bit of a quicker show for all of you here today. Grande and I also partaking in the FSGA Fantasy Baseball Best Ball Draft tonight. You can catch that live on SiriusXM Fantasy, and you can follow it along on Twitter, the draft board there over at RT Sports. So if you like fantasy baseball, you can check out the best ball teams that Grande and I are going to be drafting. But otherwise, you're stuck with us here for some NBA talk for probably about the next half an hour. Again, it's a 4-game slate. The biggest news of the day, and I put it in my playbook, and you tweeted it out earlier as well. We are on Let 'Em Know watch. For those of you who don't know, Cleveland Cavaliers are on the slate, and Donovan Mitchell, every game that he plays, around 2 hours before game time, which is right now, he generally will tweet, "Let him know." Hashtag let him know. That is, he lets us know that he's going to be. I think there was, I forget who, it might have been Underdog had tracked it. There was just one other time where he didn't tweet, "Let him know," and then still played. I have since started putting notifications on for Donovan Mitchell going back to last year. And without fail, if he tweets, "Let him know," he's in. If he doesn't tweet, "Let him know," he's out. We have not gotten the "Let him know" tweet yet. They also ruled out Ty Jerome earlier today as well. So put
DeAndre Hunter on the injury report as well.
And DeAndre Hunter questionable for today. So Cleveland home against Brooklyn, potentially with the 3 rotation players, including Donovan Mitchell. We'll get into that cover of my playbook today, being Evan Mobley for obvious reasons. We'll talk through that matchup for Brooklyn here today. I did the preview show last night, Grande. It was tough. There wasn't a lot of value. There's a couple of value pieces today, but on a short slate, unless maybe now Mitchell gets ruled out and Jerome's out, there's some more value that will open up for us here. But there wasn't a lot of value to really go too far down like we've had these last few slates. So really can only afford to spend up for one guy, whether that's Cade, Giannis, or Harden today. I guess that kind of depends on how your roster builds go. But for 4 games, it's kind of an interesting slate.
Yeah, I mean, and nothing has really changed throughout the day. So Carlo Matkovic and Dennis Schroeder ownership has basically stayed.
Yeah.
It's stayed like consistent all day. And that is usually something when you're looking at ownership in the morning, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I know Kelly Olynyk's out, but like maybe Carlo Matkovic goes away to some extent. Or, Dennis Schroeder, Detroit's fully healthy. Oh, that will go away. It hasn't.
Nope.
Now it hasn't moved.
You're buying into 20-minute, 23-minute players here, so you're hoping for their 20 fantasy points in 23 minutes type of output for everybody. I got Bender in the chat. Let him know the Hill analysis of basketball, pretty much. Donovan Mitchell, let him know, akin to the T. Higgins Hill. If we don't get it, he don't play. So
it is true. We will not be tracking his data, but you could just type in Donovan Mitchell on Twitter. Like Coop, shout out Coop for all that. Video,
his insane Hill videos. No, just gotta go to Donovan Mitchell's Twitter account
on game day, a couple hours before the game.
So again, 4 games here. We do appreciate y'all tuning in. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. You got the 7-day free trial still going on. fantasydom.com/win gets you that first month after your 7 days for less than $20. Access to everything on site, including all of our content and Fantasy Baseball Draft Guide cheat sheets included in that. So if you are preparing for your fantasy baseball leagues, that's included in your subscription. So check it out today. All right. Top overall price spend ups: Giannis, Cade, Harden, and Zion are up over $9,000. Lillard's in there as well as probable. Looking at the point guard position, Cade at 10-2, Harden $9,900, Lillard and Halliburton $8,800. Halliburton's missed the last 3 games, continues to be questionable. Would still like to play Halliburton if he's in, but I guess we're gonna have to wait and see here.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of really good plays here above like Halliburton above. I feel like there's no necessarily wrong answer. I think Dame will come in as the lowest owned. So if you want to get some leverage there, that will be something. Halliburton might not get some ownership either. But yeah, I mean, if you want to go to Cade Cunningham, he's had a lot of like subpar games lately. And he's had one boom game at the price, but it's Washington. It's a great spot. The peripheral stats have really been what's kind of hurt him because he was such a lock for like double digit assists for a really long stretch, and the rebounds. Both of those things have kind of hit a skid, especially the rebounds. The rebounds have really,
Yeah, well, I mean, the last 2 games, sure. He had also 2 games of 7 rebounds in the previous 3. I think, again, we run into these stretches where these guys are on long road trips and tougher matchups, Golden State, Portland, and they just get worn down a little bit. He scored 28 and 31 actual. It's not like he's struggling, right? Like, those things just kind of, are available in some matchups and not in others. I think Washington would present an opportunity for him to go back to getting the assists in the rebounds. So I'm not ready to just like discount him, because of a 2-game sample here on rebounds and assists.
I mean, not either, but I'm just saying it's been a little more inconsistent than it was earlier in the year. I'm not discrediting his scoring at all. The minutes have been great. Washington's bottom 5 in paints allowed. We know Cade can get to the rim at will. They're terrible, but they're just a terrible defensive team in general. But also, Tobias Harris, everything's trending up for him in terms of rebounds. Jalen Duren, we know, is ball handling more. They brought in Dennis Schroeder. He's been playing mid-20s minutes a lot. So, like, there is a lot of other things that Detroit is working through as they, like, approach the postseason that has led to some inconsistencies there. I'm not saying that he can't go out for a triple-double tonight. I would never do that. He's been great. I'm just saying they have been experimenting with other things lately.
All right, so you got him, obviously your top price point guard. If you can fit him in your lineup in this matchup, we certainly wouldn't fight you on it. Harden against the Pelicans at $9,900 again. No Norman Powell. Usage rate's up over 30% here. Just a really great spot for James Harden against a matchup against the Pelicans. Played the overtime Sacramento game, 57 fantasy points, but he's giving you 57 and 67 in 2 of the last 3 as well there. Do you have a preference of Harden versus Cade then?
I might lean Harden, but I don't have I think they're both elite. James Harden last 3 games, 31% usage rate, 34% usage rate, and then the 50 bomb, he had a 45% usage rate, all without Norman Powell. No Norman Powell, no Ben Simmons again tonight. So I might lean Harden, but I think you can spend up on both. Also, just to comment on Josh's first comment, I am unsure Tristan Vukcevic even plays tonight.
Yeah, Sar and Holmes are currently active.
Yes, right? Currently both those guys currently active. Yeah.
Obviously Halliburton again. We'll see if he's in or not. The whole world watches Mitchell because if Mitchell gets ruled out, Darius Garland, $7,100 would be the 60% play in tournament. Yeah. 90% playing cash games, probably.
Single entry in cash, you might as well have 4 Cavs. Yeah. If him and Hunter get
rolled out,
forget it.
Yeah. Garland's been fine. Obviously, good matchup against Brooklyn. They already ruled out D'Angelo Russell, so I did Brooklyn as well. James, Playbook's up. We'll have the analysis in there. Short slate, so I'll have the write-ups for the core plays in there momentarily, but. Player grid I put out today on the short slate for today. All right, what else do we got for the mid tier? McCollum, I guess, right? Carrington again, small. No, did they just get ruled out? Did that just happen?
Rashawn Holmes was removed from the injury report about 3 hours ago.
Holmes. I thought I saw it.
He's in.
Yeah, he's in, right?
As of 3 hours ago, he was removed from the injury report.
Right, Sean Holmes. Where is this? He's $3,000.
No, he is not on the injury report. He is 5,200.
Available for today's game. So
you can also always go here, Josh. The NBA's official injury report. I just put it in the chat room, and you can click on the latest report, and you can go to the team and see if it who and who's not listed on it.
Yeah, and if you're in our Discord, just an example of that, we also have an NBA lineups channel, which gets all of the latest lineup news. So you just click on the NBA lineups in Discord, and you'll see all of the latest lineup news, ins, outs, starting lineups, and everything for today. So you can go check. You can go check all of that there. All right, sorry. Back to the mid-tier range. Where you'd like to go outside of Garland, assuming Mitchell was to end up playing here?
Tough spot for CJ, and the minutes are fine, but the production's been kind of tough. I like Cam Thomas. Obviously, there's a lot not to like about Cam Thomas and just this matchup. But if there's no Donovan Mitchell, there's no DeAndre Hunter, and there's no Ty Jerome, I do think that this is kind of an advantageous spot for Cam Thomas, who has point guard, small forward eligibility. That's as good as it can get. He has trended up to 29 minutes. He's been back for 4 games, 21, 26, 26, 29. Second leg of a back-to-back where who knows if Cam Thomas is up to 30 minutes. And it's a small sample without D'Angelo Russell and all the guys that have been traded away, John.
Yeah.
I understand it. Okay, it's a 42-minute sample. He has a 46% usage rate without D'Lo and company, and 1.5 fantasy points per minute. And I think when you're looking at the team with no D'Lo, and it's him and Cam Johnson tonight, there is legit 30 actual point upside in 30 minutes for Cam Thomas if this team Cleveland is shorter-handed and he's the hamstring holds up, which no indication it wouldn't. All he did was injury management yesterday. So I have a little bit of interest in tournaments, especially if you're if we get to a spot where well, we need to load up on Cleveland, right? Well, why are we loading up on Cleveland? One, because guys are not there, but we think that the game is going to be competitive, right? Enough for us to be well, I'm going to play Garland because he's going to get me play into the fourth quarter all by himself, and Mobley and Allen and Strus and all the. Well, if that's the case, Brooklyn's competitive in this game, and they have been for the most part competitive a lot lately, including an outright win against what version of the Lakers, but they did win. So I like Cam Thomas in tournaments quite a bit. That won't matter as much if Halliburton and McConnell get ruled out, because you said it with Garland too. Every single lineup will be the same, right? It will start Darius Garland and Nembhard. That will be how every lineup starts, depending on who's in and who's out for Indiana.
Sure. Obviously, value range at point guard. You mentioned already Schroeder's where the ownership is going. If there's no Halliburton again, you could play Nembhard at 58. Washington guards are down here. What do we think? Do we think we get Craig Porter if they rule out Mitchell? Obviously no Jerome. Is it Merrill instead? Where's the minutes go here?
It's probably a combination of both, because they're not going to play Sam Merrill on the ball. Right. He can't dribble. So it would be Craig Porter as the backup for sure. Craig Porter's fine per minute too. He's over a fantasy per minute. So if they rule all those guards out, we're going to see Craig. My only concern is they would play 12 guys tonight. They would play the rest of the roster. I think Porter's in play if Mitchell sits alone.
All right. Where else do we want to go point guard here?
I guess it just depends. You could play Jose Alvarado even if he comes off the bench. He had 35 fantasy points in 23 minutes. He's a high fantasy point per minute player. So there is a case Dennis Schroeder and Jose Alvarado look pretty similar to one another. One of them has a really good matchup.
Yeah.
and the other one doesn't. But the guy in the really good matchup who is, Alvarado's a fantasy point per minute player this year. They don't have Kelly Olynyk. He can operate as this point guard, the backup point guard. They can play McCollum off the ball. Like in a ownership sense, like you could just in tournaments, you could just play Alvarado instead of Schroeder.
I was gonna say Schroeder 8%, Alvarado at 12%. Right, like there's your pivot.
The field is like assuming, and it's not a bad assumption, but it's like Kelly Olynyk is out. They must just go another big, right? That's basically what. And to be fair, New Orleans hasn't given us a reason not to think that way because they have stuck with the. But like, because Carlo Matkovic is starting, doesn't mean Carlo Matkovic is going to play well enough to close. And Alvarado, could be on Harden or something, right? So I think that there is a case to be made where like you're looking at the Schroeder ownership and you're like, man, this kind of stinks. Do I want to play? Or even if you like Dennis Schroeder, you pivot away from the Matkovic ownership and you play Alvarado in some capacity. So I like both Schroeder and Alvarado. I think they both make a good bit of sense. But I do think that there's a direct and to that extent, if Jordan Hawkins found his way into a starting lineup, obviously over Matkovic, that's a thing too.
Yep. Again, shooting guard, we haven't gotten to Donovan Mitchell, let him know yet, so we'll keep watching for it. Murphy's $7,700. I mentioned Nembhard at point guard, but obviously if Halliburton gets ruled out, he's just going to keep being a guy we'd want to get some exposure to. Best game ever yesterday? No, they lost by 20 to Chicago, but he's been really good before. I wouldn't shy away necessarily from playing him here. I like Beasley. I like Neesmith in that 5K range as well here. Again, it drops off quickly because it's just a short slate. So what do you think?
Yeah, I had just said the Nembhard thing. Him and Garland would be the most popular duo of the slate.
Yeah.
Murphy, I think, is interesting in tournaments. Always a guy that can go off. I like the price reduction too for Trey Murphy. He'll draw Kawhi defense, so it depends. But like he obviously can fill it up. If Donovan Mitchell plays, I like the spot.
Sure.
Nembhard's good. I'm interested to see what Washington does with their starting lineup without Coulibaly. Could be Bub. Could be Smart.
Smart hasn't played more than 20
hasn't really played. So it could be one of them, but lean towards Bub. If Bub starts, I don't hate it. But like if it's him versus Nembhard in a situation where TJ McConnell and Halliburton are out, there's not even a debate. I do find it interesting, the McConnell stuff. I think he sits today. He only played 9 minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
And then like I know that they like basically ruled everybody out, but he played in the third quarter, John. He checked in, he played 11 seconds, turned the ball over, got subbed out, never saw the floor again. And then is questionable the next day. It doesn't sound like a guy who's going to play. We'll see. Obviously, that's just speculative. But I'm good with Neesmith. I am a little indifferent with Mathurin being back, and also like you look at some of the numbers. He's 0.8 fantasy point per minute. No McConnell, no Halliburton. 18% usage. That stuff's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Mathurin, I would like add like Nembhard's over a fantasy point per minute. I know the position eligibility isn't as good for Mathurin, but he's at like a 28% usage rate. The position, like
you just need the minutes out of that guy,
You just need the minutes. But they did start him yesterday for what that's worth.
Yeah.
So if there's no Halliburton or McConnell, they might go back to it. We'll see. But I don't know, like Bogdanovich, he's coming off the bench. I don't hate your Beasley call. He's, high usage. He's their second leading scorer this year. 16.5 points per game. He's
been so good. We talk about this a lot of times too on a small slate. Like sometimes you just need points, right? Guys that have a chance to blow up, and he's a blow up guy.
If he hits 8 threes tonight, he's in the winning lineup.
Yeah.
I there's a small part of me, and I don't usually play like a lot of like the Chris Dunns of the world, but he has been getting consistent minutes. If he stays out of foul trouble, his ceiling is like so contingent on peripheral stats because like he is not going to take a lot of shots. But the role's been good without Norm Powell. I don't hate that. We should see Keon Johnson play a bunch of minutes. He should be fine. Zaire Williams played a lot of minutes the last 2 games. Is that reliable?
He's getting ownership.
He's getting a lot of ownership. That seems all the Brooklyn stuff to me always seems a little tough to get to when it's not like one of the Cams or D'Lo because all of it's so up and down. And like Watford's back, so what do they do? It's all kind of just like plays kind of everywhere to me. Strus becomes pretty interesting if all the Cleveland stuff is out too.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Anything else?
Torian Prince has played a bunch of minutes.
Jim, we got to see if Halliburton plays. If Halliburton plays, I'd probably go the Halliburton route here. But again, he's missed the last 3 games, so you gotta see if that lineup's in or not. And there are 7:30 starts, so you probably won't know until after lock at this point. So just be on the lookout if you're going to go that route. Small forward, you got Zion at 90, 200 and Kawhi at 81 on the other side of it. Again, Kawhi played a bunch of minutes, did not produce fantasy-wise against Sacramento like we had hoped. But it's still a really good price tag for him, and obviously the matchup against the Pelicans is favorable. Likewise, for Zion, 28 minutes. Maybe he would have gotten more. He played 32 the game before that, so maybe we're finally past this like 30-minute clip for Zion. If that was a competitive game, tonight can be somewhat competitive. Zion certainly more than capable of going for 50, 60 fantasy points at this price tag. So if you're looking to spend up, do you have a preference of Zion or Kawhi?
I mean, I'm not saying Kawhi can't have a ceiling, but like he's basically done nothing to deserve like the 8K price, at least on a consistency basis. The minutes or the minutes and the shot volume are like the only consistent things that Kawhi has done this year. He has not been great. It's a great spot, but like at the ownership, I don't feel the need to get there if he's going to be this popular. I like the Zion discount in tournaments. I mean, it's a really tough spot, but we've seen him in really tough spots have no problem whatsoever. So, and in like really short pockets. I mean, the Lakers' #1 defense in the NBA, he went 17 of 23 from the floor in 26 minutes. So Zion being kind of matchup proof. I would lean Zion in tournaments. Kawhi is safe because the field's going to be there. It's a good matchup, but I don't know like what the upside. Kawhi, he's going to give us an upside game eventually, but
so this is saying Donovan Mitchell is still a game time decision, but he hasn't tweeted, so I don't believe it. I'll believe it when he tweets. On a smaller slate, we run into a lot of these guys with dual positional eligibility, so we pretty much hit this whole next year already, but you have Kuzma and Middleton and Asor Thompson as 3. Middleton's still kind of minutes limited. Thompson has been in foul trouble. Kuzma, third fiddle. I mean, anything there interesting to you?
No, I would just play Cam Thomas overall.
Yeah, I was going to say, play Cam Thomas, play Beasley, play Neesmith. Where are you at Bogdan? Any interest there?
He plays basketball.
Okay. It's the guy that steps on the floor?
Yeah.
Okay. Any value here? I didn't really find much value at small forward.
Kispert probably has a path to more minutes. No Koulibaly. If you don't think they're going to extend Smart, which you have every right to think that. They haven't extended Smart.
Yeah.
So Kispert could be extended at 43. I don't love it. I don't hate it. But Talk Strus, Gary Trent, like in and out of the rotation, you never know when he's going to play. Yeah. Bruce Brown, another one in and out of the rotation, could be beneficiary to the Kelly O absence.
If they go Zion back to the 4, right? Bruce Brown could see more minutes at the 3 today, but
there's about 5 guys that could start, right? Yeah. In favor of Kelly O. And Bruce Brown's one of them.
Yeah. All right. Power forward then brings us to Giannis as the top overall spend up on the slate. Did not come through against Cleveland there. 30 actual is great, but just 47 fantasy points. He's up over $11,000. So you really need to get closer to that 50 to 60 plus fantasy point effort. He has had a lot of success against Indiana this year. 65 fantasy points in the 2 games. Is he your top spend today?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You wrote up his prop today on Underdog.
I wrote up his points.
What was his points prop? What was it at? 28 and a half?
31 and a half.
31 and a half. All right.
Giannis
likes the over.
Giannis is scoring 40 tonight.
All right.
It is a bad spot for Indiana. They don't have individual matchup for Giannis. There's been a running thing there. And in general, John, Indiana, I wanted to pull this up just to make sure I was citing it correctly. They are the 3rd worst team when it comes to allowing points in the paint. You know where Giannis scores a lot of points?
In the paint.
In the paint. They allow 52 points per game in the paint. So there's no surprise why Giannis is having so much and has had so much success against them.
We've talked about, obviously, if Mitchell gets ruled out, Evan Mobley has been a guy that's put up some big numbers this year.
Yes.
He would probably shoot to be one of the more popular plays on the slate if he ends up being ruled out. Good price tag, great matchup against Brooklyn. I would be all in. You've been able to play him alongside Donovan Mitchell lately and be okay with it. But the ceiling that he has, we've seen without Mitchell, has been pretty large. Is Toby your next play? 57?
TBD on Siakam.
Okay.
Obviously, we can play Siakam. We want to play Siakam in a scenario there's no Halliburton, no McConnell.
Okay. I was gonna say, right now we're basically, the last couple of games, we're getting pretty similar production just out of Toby.
Yeah.
Two go left.
I'm not saying, but he went for 50 in the Atlanta game, went for 42 in the Atlanta game, and then the Chicago game, Carlisle benched everyone and just punted the second half. He literally just said, nah. I'm not saying you're wrong, but
those Atlanta games are obviously also ridiculously high scoring. This one, that matchup, Indiana Milwaukee, is the highest in the slate too, right? So
236 and a half, and it's 2 top 10 teams in pace. Milwaukee's 9th, Indiana 7th. So it's not, I'm not saying it's an easy spot,
no, I agree.
It there are good numbers. Pascal Siakam this year without Halliburton and McConnell, 29% usage rate, leads a team, 1.35 fantasy points per minute leads a team.
No one's playing him either, right? Siakam, that is, because obviously you're spending up elsewhere. So
I'd love to see what happens if Mitchell gets ruled out and Mitchell and Halliburton get ruled out, because then I'd love to see the chaos that ensues and where the ownership disperses, because then we're talking about Evan Mobley and Siakam sitting right next to each other in at the position and the price.
Yeah. Thoughts on Merrill? He's fine. Again, if they rule out Mitchell, they've already ruled out Ty Jerome. He'll get his run there. Hunter's also questionable, Josh, so we'll have to see if Hunter's in or not. But yeah, if Mitchell's out, everybody gets a little bit of a bum. Mitch and Hunter would be included in that.
Yep.
Would you play beef stew together to get Giannis and Harden together? Yeah. Again, I like Isaiah Stewart on these slates because he's high output fantasy point per minute guy. It's just obviously you're taking a risk there. He could go for no points, so there's just that chance. Plus, the entire world is playing Carlo Maktovic today, so $3,700. This is where the field's at. He'll be 70% in tournaments, 90% in single entries. So and he's been good. Really, with whatever role that he's been in, and at $3,700, even if he gives you 17 fantasy points, you're okay with that. So anything else that you'd play here?
You said Hunter if he plays.
Yeah.
The Clippers have been starting Nico Batum. last 2 games. The minutes have been fine for him. Really good production a couple games ago.
It hit 5 threes. The way back machine.
Nico Batum, baby, right? That's probably it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No Nikola Jokic on tonight's slate, so can't plug that button. We got to figure out where else we want to go. Zubac, Turner, Duran, Allen, Sarr. You're basically your top 4 centers here. From an ownership perspective tonight, Duran is the guy that people are playing. Again, Washington all season long has been a team that we've attacked with opposing centers. He's been really good. The only drawback, as we say every slate with him, is they don't play him more than 30 minutes. He plays 29 minutes. That's just what he does.
They just want him in this range, right? They're like, whoa, we get to 32. We're getting a little too crazy here. Let's reel him back in. Plus, if they play him anymore, he's going to foul out. So they have to limit him to 29.
That's true.
They can't afford to go any further because he will just simply foul.
Within 2 more minutes, he will get his 6th foul there. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great play. Washington, and I've been diving into this more this week. Washington 27th opponent's points in the paint. Also, Washington 28th opponent's second chance points. You know what Jalen Duran does really well?
Scoring the points in the paint.
And grab offensive rebounds. Both those things, he's going to dominate Washington. So I like Jalen Duran quite a bit as long as he stays out of foul trouble. And right behind him is Ivica Zubac, who I have loved playing. The minutes are just dynamite. The ceiling is just dynamite. The floor is great. This is a complete different player than we have talked about in years past. Like absolute monster season for Ivica Zubac.
Yeah. And again, 44 minutes against Sacramento in that OT game. Pretty huge there. Value at the center position is there? It's Maktovic. Is there anybody else? We had a Toppin reference. Obi played 20 minutes, kind of playing that run there.
Yeah. I mean, he's the pivot. Another looks a lot like Maktovic. If they play the same amount of minutes. Alex Sarr 59 is really interesting. I told you yesterday I really liked Alex Sarr, and then Alex Sarr was in the winning lineup yesterday, and he didn't even shoot well, but he was so good peripherally. I know Richaun Holmes is back. Richaun Holmes was in that first Toronto game, and he had a double-double and 34 fantasy points. They're letting Alex Sarr go. Like, they're just letting him rock right now. So I love Alex Sarr, $5,900. Jared Allen has a really high ceiling in situations where there's been no Ty Jerome, no Mitchell, no Hunter. It's a pretty big sample, like 150-minute sample, 1.5 fantasy points per minute, leads the team. And that's actually with Hunter on the floor. His 1.46 fantasy points per minute, the big drop off there, also leads the team if Hunter sits. So, I love Jared Allen today. Just give me one of them out, and I'm all in on Allen.
I like it. Anybody else?
I did. You flash Beef Stew on the screen.
Just a tournament
He's
play.
Solid. Nick Claxton is going to play 30 minutes tonight. Very wide range of outcomes for Nick Claxton. You just look through his game logs. I mean, he has a lot of 20s, some 40s. The 40s would be great, and it's never anything specific on when he does it. He just has a ceiling. Richaun Holmes doubled in 20 minutes the other day. Play him in 20 minutes. Yves Missi plays 28 minutes. I don't think Vucevic plays per the comment we had off the rip from Josh. And what Josh was saying is a little interesting.
Chimene?
Yeah, I mean, there is no. We don't know what Washington's going to do.
We will get their starting lineup.
He's been a starter before. We will get their starting lineup. Yeah. So you know, if Champagne's starting at 47, he's a good fantasy point per minute player.
Let's get a lineup going. You mentioned you're in Giannis. We'll do it with the Carlo. Are we playing the Schroeder chalk, or are we going to pivot to like Alvarado here? What do we want to do? How chalky are we playing tonight?
I'll leave that up. I mean, we're clearly we're starting off fairly chalk.
We can play Alvarado for 20% less. If you think they're,
I mean, I like the tournament pivot. I think it would be one or the other closing between him and Matkovic, but
all right, let's go Beasley here. There's like that 62. Can we get another? I see. This is where I struggled on the preview show. I couldn't really get another spend up. Play Cam Thomas, small forward. Anything like this.
You could play Kawhi. Just play Kawhi. He's
5,300 forward util. Do like Zaire.
Gross.
And then 62 util is Cam J. Just double up.
Oh, it's gross.
Or Jared Allen. Yeah, we'll do Jared Allen. We'll do that.
Or Jared Allen.
All right. Thomas, Beasley, Leonard, Giannis, Matkovic, Alvarado, Williams, and Allen. As an example lineup here today for everybody. Again, short slate. We appreciate you all. 7 p.m. roster lock. We'll have some updates to the playbook coming out momentarily. Again, if you want to catch James and I, we're doing the FSGA Best Ball Championship Draft tonight. You can catch that over on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio with Howard Bender at 6 p.m. And then obviously follow it along on Twitter, RT Sports Twitter handle there. So catch it there. Josh wants to know, final question. Did you play Cade and Schroeder together? Sure. I mean,
sure.
Yeah. You're only playing Cade for the 20 minutes. So, I mean, Schroeder for the 20 minutes. So it's fine. If not, go Harden instead. Play that Raheem. So, all right. We'll have the preview show out later tonight, everybody. We'll catch you tomorrow. Big Wednesday slate. See you then.